we did have some notes here, and I have to refer to them. One of the things that we have here, oh my God, a microphone. The man gives me
Charging her
a
100,000.
microphone. Of course, yes. It's not unusual. No, sorry, this is not. Excusez moi, yeah. Okay, what happened in 2017? U.S. restored diplomatic relations with Turkey. So far, they're still working on that, right? There's a couple other things, yes. Canada actually established Canadian diplomatic relations with the U.S. It ended the next day. I think we're still working on that.
We're still working.
Let's see. Switzerland and URSS agreed to diplomatic relationships. I don't know why they did that. They're still working on that. They're working on a lot of things from that year, but I think there's something about, oh yes, the end of the Great Depression. And we know why that happened is because Aunt Fanny Francis was born that year. This was the end of the Great Depression, yes. If anybody knows what, I don't know if you realize that we don't call Aunt Francis, we call her Fanny. And I still don't know why we call her Fanny, because I've only seen the backside of that story. I'm not sure if that worked or not. Okay, let's see. There's a couple of, Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth actually hits his 19th and 20th of the 60 home runs that year. And let's see, there's a couple other things. We're not quite sure, but we know that Françoise and Fanny is French for free. So you are free to do whatever you want. I can tell you that you are the most my favorite aunt, right? Mainly because I don't know any other. And we will come back for your next birthday, wherever that's going to be, because we might even be in Canada. Okay?
Okay.
Merci encore, ma tante. Très gentil de ta part. Et justement, des États-Unis. Voilà. I believe this is
Well, I guess it's my turn.
What are you going to say? I don't think
Oh, everything good. I wouldn't say a bad thing about you. Anyway, you were born to Willie Celis
Yeah.
and Della Lavalle. Francis was the second youngest of 10 children in Eel River, New Brunswick.
Yeah.
You got to remember, in those days they had no TV. So
Yeah, we didn't even have
10
radio.
children.
Never mind.
Well, I know, and Pepere was good for this, wasn't he? Pepere, as we called him, our grandfather, always said that the house was too quiet when Francis left home. I wonder why.
Because I used to sing all the time.
You're right, that's the next agenda. You're getting ahead of me here, girl. Seems she sang all the time, even when others didn't want to hear her.
Had no choice.
She loved to go to dances at the fire hall. I must remember that because I'm on the fire department.
Yeah.
I have to take you to our fireman's ball. And to party. Surprise, surprise.
Where do you think she took this from?
Yeah.
I come by it honestly.
She loved her brothers and sisters, and I can attest to this. Loved their children as well. We can always count on her to make us feel special when we were together because she loved getting the family all around. Especially when the mayor lived with her after Pepere died, her home became the family home where we visited and connected with her and the mayor. The door was always open. So, and I have some great memories of you and Ruth, especially when Ruth had her little tricycle that I wanted when you lived in Verdun. and you used to, I wouldn't say beat the pulp out of me, but scare me because you always told me to get off of it. So that's one of the very good memories that I had, going down to Verdun and seeing you.
Yeah.
And I will never forget it. It will always be there. So I will pass this on.
Thank you.
Well, I don't have the same memories because I'm just a bit younger than these guys.
Rub it in. Rub it in.
But at 14, Fanny left New Brunswick to live with her sister Obaline and husband Art in Montreal. And one thing I noticed, I've actually never been, I think one thing we haven't put emphasis on, Francis, ma tante France, you're an Acadian, okay? And I've never actually visited New Brunswick. But the stories I hear and everything about New Brunswick and being, I guess, a French Canadian in New Brunswick is quite funny. So when I see these names, Obaline and all the names that from actually New Brunswick, it's always funny, and I always laugh at Graciela.
My mother's best friend was called Graziello. Can you imagine giving a child that name?
So me not never going to Brunswick and hearing these stories of Acadians and all that, it's always really funny. So every time I hear stories that Anne Francis tells me, it's like, okay, these names, where did they get it? Like, it's like, oh. So she worked looking after children, which she loved, but then started on a career that she actually adored. And then she retired. She said, when you worked at the Cock and Bull, right? You loved working there. It was your love. So you actually worked at other places. Pizza Tommaso. Piazza Tommaso. Sorry, I apologize. Miss Snowden. So I'm assuming Miss Snowden probably was smoked meat.
Yeah, no.
No?
There was smoked meat, but they had all
It was
all juice food.
Oh, okay, obviously. And finally, while you worked at the Cock and Bull, so over the years, she told us wonderful stories of her career, and always with love and laughter for what she did. So basically, you're always in a good mood, and you always love talking about your stories, and always positive. So, I mean, when I talked to Ruth about a memory of Anne Francis, it kind of came up last night, believe it or not, because how old were you when you got your license again, Aunt Fanny? 55, so...
How many times did you try?
It's true.
She had the car for 3 years.
There was a kid with
And she actually, if I remember correctly, you actually bought that car in Huntington, right? The first Chevette?
my mother bought me the
no, and then they bought the house.
Well, yeah, I remember the little green Chevette.
Louise.
Yeah. Little.
Her license 3 years after she bought the car.
Yeah.
There was a kid behind the counter, and he said, did you pass? I'd say, no. If I pass, I said, I'll take you out for supper. And it took me 10 times to pass her.
But I remember you actually, once you got your license, I remember lugging around and going around all the time because you'd come and visit because you'd want to practice. So
Drove down to PI.
there you go. So I want to thank you because obviously I'm actually the youngest of the nephews, and you were still very present even though we weren't seeing each other as much. I'm very, very proud to be your nephew today.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks so much. There were 3 things that Mom was most proud of.
Was you?
Was me.
Sarah?
Was me, her job. But the greatest pleasure came later on in her life, and it was her granddaughter, Sarah.
Yep.
Come, sweetheart.
She's the love of my life.
It was impossible to think that anything could give her as much joy, but it certainly was her granddaughter.
So you're proud of me for many things, apparently,
things,
but public speaking is not one of them. So I'm going to preface my speech by saying that. I could probably go on for hours recounting all the great memories I have with my grandmother, but in general, I just feel very fortunate to come from a really strong line of amazing women with amazing skills and joie de vivre. And my grandma definitely has that. She has more energy than we could ever put together, even at the age of 85. She loves life. She's so generous. I mean, any dollar that she has, she's willing to give to anyone who needs it. And I think it's a really amazing example, and I'm really fortunate to have her in my life. So thanks, Nan.
I love you.
I love you. Happy birthday.
I'd like to share my story of my mother.
You're going to make me cry now.
No, here's the deal. You can't cry. I'd like to share some of the memories of my mom. My mom and I were on our own from the time I was 9 years old. And just to put this in perspective, we lived on a third-floor tenement in Verdun, Montreal. And my mom's rent was $45 a month. But she made sure she had a job where she was there when I went to school in the morning, and she would be at home when I came home at the end of the day, which meant that she could only work from about 9 to 3. So she worked at the Standard Life coffee shop. And this woman saved enough money during the course of 10 months to pay her rent for the 2 months in the summertime that we weren't there, and we got on the train or we got a lift. It was really great to get a lift, 13-hour drive to New Brunswick so I could have the summer in New Brunswick. And so we did that every year until I was 15 years old. And my mom would help her mother and father in their general store during the 2 months that we were there. But it was all about saving as much as she could during the winter so that I could have the summer in New Brunswick. In New Brunswick,